You know, what you all don't know, there are things that I know about this class, about people in the class that you all obviously don't know. And but there have been 3 people in the class fairly recently this semester who've lost a parent. And I feel that. 3 weeks ago, I lost a good friend who was in this class earlier this semester. You may have noticed him walking around. Yeah, 3 of you have lost a parent. And then one of your classmates died a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, we come here and we go to school, we do this work, and we come and we live our lives, and it just seems like everyone's just kind of moving along. But things happen. And things happen. And many of us are dealing with a lot of things that are really difficult. So I just thought we'd just take a moment of silence, just as a way to recognize the nature of this life. You know, a number of years ago, I took a couple weeks. I spent a couple weeks in a Buddhist monastery, and every morning, the first thing in the morning, and every night, right before we went to bed, one of the monks chanted a chant that has stuck with me all this time in these many years. And the chant is, "Let me respectfully remind you that life and death are of extreme importance. Time quickly passes and opportunity is lost. Do not squander this life." And the monk would sing it in kind of a chant, and it just moves in a way that is very powerful. And I think we all would do well to recognize life and death are of extreme importance, and opportunity is lost. Do not squander this life. So all this stuff we're talking about at some level it's all tenuous. And bro, dude, can you stand up? You remember this guy with the long red hair? And bro, hang on. You just donated it, you said? Yeah, awesome, man. Who'd you donate it? Where'd you donate it?
So I'm not exactly sure. It was either Locks of Love or it was another organization that takes hair for children in need of hair. We know that chemotherapy messes with your hair follicles. So my hair is going to some young girl, hopefully, or guy who might want long hair. So it'll be made into a wig and donated to somebody that doesn't grow hair.
Dude, you had some killer hair too, man.
I know, it was a long time coming. It was, I'm graduating in the spring. It was my senior year of high school last time I got it cut, so it was 3 years before I got it cut.
Wow, awesome, man. Thanks for doing that. Yeah. Hey, so today, you can put that. So today's class is Humanidade, humanity, right? So the title of this class is you pronounce that somos humanidade, and it's Portuguese for we are humanity. And I'll tell you where it comes from in a few minutes. But it's kind of a really special class for me, for all of us, in a certain sense. And so, I've been looking forward to it, and I want to go back on a couple things. If you could go to this next slide. I showed you this slide earlier in the semester, and I want to just remind, the one thing that I really try not to do ever is to kind of motivate people or push people or manipulate people to feel guilt or feel bad or feel something, right? So, but in this particular class, given the nature of the topics that we're discussing, there's just a lot of stuff that that's not, I don't know, it's not fully uplifting, right? I mean, there are things, right, that in the world, and I mean, it's all relative, right? Like we cross. Everybody crosses through into the unknown, and the unknown by everything. Everything that I can assess is pretty cool. But my job is not to get us to feel bad or guilty or anything like that, right? Just like it's not to get people to feel too much of themselves. But from my assessment, and I've only had 61 years on this planet, from my assessment, I feel like I've better understood, the more I understand different aspects of the world, and the more I understand my particular place in it, the more I understand life itself. And I look at this because, like we're in a period in history of unprecedented wealth and comfort and all the things that we just the things that are available to human beings, the level of comfort, right? And we're at the time of the human history with the lowest amount of violence. There's less violence today than any point in human history, and so it's hard to really comprehend all of that, right? But what this graph is, if you may remember it, so the percentage of adults, 1% of adults control, this is all the wealth in the world. This property is just wealth. And 1% controls 46% of all the wealth. This is the world. And 1% are people with $1 million. So you add up all your assets in a family, right? So if you have a family and they've got all your retirement accounts and houses and all that kind of stuff, and you add it all up, it's like, where do you stand? And the next 11% are people who own between 100,000, who are worth 100,000 to $1 million, and they control this much, right? And 55% of the human population is what is called here to be miserable, own less than $10,000, and many of these, a huge number of them, own nothing at all. Don't think 10,000, think more like $100. And they control about 1% of all the global wealth. And it's like most of you all in this classroom, you are part of the richest 1% of the human population. Doesn't matter what your race is, doesn't matter what your background is. When you, coming from the families of most of you in this classroom, you're in the richest 1%. And that's like, you line up 100 people, and you're the one at the very end. You know what I mean? The one at the very end. And and I could say, well, I'm here at the end of that 100 people, but I could be way out there, but it doesn't matter. I'm here. And when you sit with that, right, it's like, when you put this in perspective, you just have a way of, it just catalyzes a change in oneself that I don't know what it does. It's different for every, I wish I could just download my brain to everybody, but like, damn, man. To think that we are a room full of the 1%. And if we're not the 1%, if you're not in that, you're in the 11%. So the rich is 12%. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, God. And you certainly, if not now, you will be. It's not going to change. And there's something about the realization of that, the kind of understanding of that, that just, it's so humbling and it's so powerful, just as a way, not to feel guilty, not to feel bad, not to feel whatever, but it's just a way of just placing ourselves somehow. So, can you go? Yeah. So listen, we're going to talk to a friend today, a friend of mine, friend of the class actually, but you don't know her. I know her, but you will know her. But I want to just say I just thought, let me just say a few things. So my focus in my all of my education and my early research, the early part of my life, was in Latin America and in Africa, but primarily Latin America. And I spent a lot of time in Latin America and trying to understand poverty more than anything else. And I got really curious about the Catholic Church and Protestants and Christians, and how it was that Christians can really hold, just Christians, right? I'm now currently fascinated by Muslims and obviously Buddhists and lots of other philosophies and so on, but I got really curious about how it is that Christians can hold a Christian theology in the middle of so much deprivation and poverty. I took a trip to Latin America and I saw some things that I just was like, oh my God, how do you make sense of this? To just such, on one hand, that there's just a misery, and on the other hand, just this wealth that I saw, not only around me, but also there in parts. And I just really wanted, so I kept going back. And I just kept going back, right? And ultimately, I wanted to study this thing called liberation theology. And it's a movement inside the Catholic Church that was focused around Catholics who reinterpreted the entire Bible and the entire message of God to be that God stands for the poorest of the poor. The church historically has stood for the rich, but we really think that God stands for the poor, and that the rich have taken over the church, like these televangelists who fly around in their jets and stuff, right? They've taken it over, and they've like co-opted this messaging for wealthy people, but in fact, the vast majority of people on the earth are poor, and it's a message for the poor. And this statement, this is a statement from a priest who I befriended, right? And I wrote this down in my notes, and I mean, this is all I did. What I did for years is just follow priests and nuns around. I spent so much time with priests and nuns. I learned had so many utterly fascinating experiences. And I'm not Catholic, I just wanted to know how it is that human beings can accept deprivation and poverty and then integrate that into their mindset. Like, know it occurs and either do something about it or don't do something about it, but have it somehow in their mindset, right? It's like poverty is a result of rich people's greed and not just an act of birth. You're like, yeah, man. God. And these aren't priests like those of you who are Catholic, like priests like This is a very different group of people. And so I This has been the issue or the question that's plagued me my entire life, trying to understand how to make sense of this, right? So I found these two photos over the weekend. I don't know, I just saw, that's me back when I was roaming the hills of Ecuador, trying to, the Andes mountains. I shouldn't say the hills, the mountains. And then here's another shot of me. I would go with these priests and we would go and visit these faraway communities, sometimes in a car, sometimes walking, sometimes on horseback. And people who had never seen a dude who looked like that. And to answer the questions, right? The questions, like, oh my God, just wanting to know what's the purpose of all of this, right? And what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to live? What do I owe to the world? You know what I mean? What do I owe? And you know what I mean? I was on a path like that one time, right? And I was with the priest. And this couple brought their baby who was malnourished, very poor, really poor. I mean, at most, they ate a cup of rice a day, maybe between them. I don't know. Really poor. And they brought this baby, and the baby was malnourished. And she wasn't producing milk, and she was just like, fuck, man. And the baby died. They brought the baby and said, okay, for the priest to give the last rites, right? And the baby died right there. And I thought, I could have saved that. If I would have known, I have money in my pocket, I could save that child. And then I could save another one and another one. At some point, I can't anymore because I would run out of money. And how do you manage that? Any one of you, right now, you could easily save the lives of so many people. I could put you, it's very simple. It's not difficult at all, right? But what do you do? How do you do that? When do you do it? When do you not do it? These are the questions. For me, when I was your age, these are the questions I was wrestling with. And then went out into the world to try to get answers to those questions. And I never got answers. Even to this day, I don't have an answer. I'm still wrestling, but it's God. It's how do you make a life? How do you make sense? And then here I do what I do, and what am I doing here, and why are we here, and what's the purpose? To the questions, the best questions in the world do not have answers. And the best questions in the world can't have answers. They're the questions that you have to ruminate on and think about and reflect on and hold deep in one's mind, soul, and heart as long as possible until you finally get tired of wrestling, and that's how you get your answer. But you never get an answer. The best things in the world can't be put into words. The most important things can't be put into words, which is why when I feel like I get to the place where I'm ready to just finally say something and I can't find the words to it, because anything that I have of value to say, I can't say it. That's how life is. And then when we turn around and we walk away just because, for whatever reason, we got to just get on with our lives, and then we don't think about it, well, there's no answer there, and then I'm just going to move on. That takes me back to my time in the monastery. Do not squander your life. Don't squander your life. You get one shot. You get one shot. That's it. And it's real. So, can you go to the next slide? So in Islam, there's this thing called zakat. Every religion, every thought system, every philosophy, you got to find some way to deal with human beings around us. We live in a community, you got to figure out there's some way to deal with other people in the community and work with it. And they're always got to figure out how to work with inequality, the haves and the have-nots. And you got to deal with poverty. Everybody has to deal with poverty. We've got to find some way to do it. You can deny it. You can say, they're always going to be that way, or it is this, or is that, or whatever. Or you can take some different philosophy like these priests who said, no. This isn't inevitable. This is a result of greed. And if we didn't have greed, then things would be very different. If you followed the teachings of Christ, we wouldn't have poverty. That's a very simple thing. But, we don't follow the teachings. We manipulate the teachings of Christ in a way that makes sense so that we can mostly live the way that we can feel comfortable living. And that's how people are, unless you decide to take the road less traveled. In Islam, this thing called zakat. And in zakat, it's one of the 5 pillars of Islam to give 2.5% of your possessions and your income away to the poor. The entire religion does this. Even for some, it depends on the imam and it depends on, the particular interpretation, but even children, you got to, for many people, even kids, you got to figure out what they own, what they possess, and what they have, and you give 2.5% away every year to the poor. So you look at your bank account and you look at all the income that you have and you add it all up and you give it away at the end of that year. And then the next year you start over. And this is the way Muslims this is the way they have this way of dealing with inequity and poverty and the haves and the have-nots. And mind you, as far as I'm concerned, because I've spent a lot of time in the Muslim world, I think that there are a lot of folks that could probably do a much better job. But nonetheless, this is the way that they do it. It's like, wow. Imagine that. For those of you who are not Muslim, imagine that every year you got to calculate 2.5%. That's 1/40th of your possessions, your income. You got to calculate it at the end of the year. And you give it away. It's just like, there's so much we don't know. You know what I mean? So much we don't know. How would that be? Right? Think of it. Every time, everything, 1/40th, everything. 2.5 cents on the dollar. I just thought I would just kick that out there because, I don't know, I think it's a really awesome thing. Okay, next slide. So, back in 2014, I was invited to Porto Alegre, Brazil. Did I say that right? Porto Alegre? Good enough? Yeah, all right. And to give a talk. And I called it The Wisdom of Sociology because I'm a knucklehead and I couldn't come up with any other title. You can just hold that. And anyway, that was a shot from down. I was a much younger man back then. I wish I could say I was anything else. But anyway, so I gave this talk. All right. And there was this woman who was speaking. She was an invited speaker. And Mariluce. And I didn't know who she was. She was with all the speakers, and I was watching her, and, we had dinner the night before, and then the next day, and I'm like, who is this person, right? And just the way she was kind of shy and, the way she carried herself. And I later found out that they really couldn't, get her to put her talk together, right? So she was doing this, 15 to 20 minute talk. And they really had a hard time kind of getting her to kind of put it together in a way that kind of made sense. And finally they said, listen, just, Mariluce, just go up on stage and tell your story, right? So she told, it's a story that I've heard many times in my life, right? Because, spending as much time as I have in Latin America and other places, but she told this story that was, and I don't want to, because, we're recording, I don't want to be gratuitous at all. I'm going to be really careful in the way I say this, but the story of what she went through in her life, one thing after, from when she was just born, one thing after another, was unlike anything even I had ever heard in my life. That a single human being could experience all of those things, all of that, and yet smile, and yet be able to stand up on stage and talk about it. And she, for most of her talk, she cried. And everyone in the room, which is about this size or so, cried. We got about 2 minutes in, and it was just part of the humanity. Somos humanidade. We are humanity. What she brought to this room and to the world was a story of resilience and hope and awesomeness. Because what she does is she's one of these people who just out of the ash, out of something, that she said, I am going to reach down into my soul, and I am going to bring something to children in the world, so the children in my orbit never have to experience the kinds of things that I experienced. And again, you wouldn't believe it. If I walked down the list, you wouldn't believe it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But just imagine, right? So that's what she did. And so then, the next day, go to the next slide. So the next day, later that day, we talk, and we had an interpreter, because she doesn't speak English. I don't speak Portuguese, and, I'd speak to her in Spanish, but mostly she didn't. And so I met her, and I looked at her, and I said, to myself, and you all will have this chance in life as you meet people along the way, and you will have the opportunity to connect with certain people and know that you're going to be connected with them for the rest of your life. And many of you will have the opportunity to befriend people who you will be able to help them, and they will be able to help you. And sometimes it will just be that you will know that you play a role in their lives. And so I knew I was going to stay connected to Mariluce forever. I said, listen, man, I got this. You the work you're doing, we're going to support you. My class, me and my class, we're going to just support you until I can't support you anymore, right? This is till I'm not on this earth anymore. But we're going to be, she's in my will. She's just like, okay, whatever, right? This is just one of these people, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about what she does. So she lives in this place called Complexo do Alemão. It's the German complex. It's Favela in Rio. And it's one of these favelas that I don't want to call it, the word in English is slum. But I don't like using slum, because slum is just like, it has a certain connotation and it doesn't make sense. But it's a huge barrio. It's a huge neighborhood. It is extremely violent, extremely poor. And every day is a struggle to get by. And yet there's a quality to it that's really cultural, right? And really intense. And so she lives there. And go ahead. And they have these streetcars, by the way. And it's just and so this whole network of streetcars that they have there. Okay. And the police, it's really violent. The police just roll through. This is a place where police can go through and they'll just kill people and leave the bodies in the street, because they're after the drug dealers and the thieves and so on and so forth. Bodies will just be in the street. I mean, it's just like, this is what it is. And next slide. And kids grow up with this. Like, look at the kids there, right? So Mariluce is saying, we cannot have this. Like, we cannot have this. This is a sin. The priest would say this is a sin. Mariluce this is a crime. And you can't have little kids. Imagine this is how you grow up. This is your life. Gunshots and like all the time and dead bodies and one thing after another. It's like, oh my God, man. So, go ahead, next one. So she starts this thing for children. She calls it Favela art. And she developed this style, along with the kids, they developed this style of painting. And they paint in the streets and they paint on canvas and they sell the canvas. And they sell it so that the kids, just have a safe place to go. We talk about a safe place to go. Like after school, we're talking about literally a safe place to go. To get away from the violence and the gunshots and the killings and so on, right? And so these are shots that she takes, because every year, she's sending me photos all the time, right? Here's a couple of the kids. Go ahead, next one. And here's somebody who's painting on the wall. And these are kids, as young as like 2 and 3, and up to teenagers that she's working with. And this is like, oh my God. Go ahead. So just beautifying. And you look at the sidewalk and you think, oh my God, right? But look at the wall. The kid's doing that, right? It's awesome. And then next slide. Here's some kids painting. See, they have that style. See, can you see down here? See the way they're doing this. It's a particular way of painting, right? Next one. Here's some kids with some smocks that they are wearing when they're painting, right? Just look at that. Like, somos humanidade. We are humanity, right? We are humanity. And like, God, it's just so precious. Just like everything is precious, man. Everything is precious. Next one. So, one time, they got this building that they could use. And it was an empty building, and they needed materials for it to fix it up, right? And so she came to me and said, listen, man, can you send us $1,000? We're going to redo the floor. And I said, listen, man, Mariluce, I'll give you $1,000, but I want a painting. So I commissioned this painting for $1,000. It's 2 meters by 1 meter, 3 meters by 1 meter. And that's me sitting in my living room. It sits above my couch. Isn't that awesome, right? And so she made that with the kids, right? I don't think anyone's ever commissioned a painting for $1,000 from Complexo do Alemão. Hey, we'll be like 5 minutes. Okay. And here's a little girl here. And look at that. Look at that painting. Isn't that cool? Next one. So this is a school. So 2 years ago in class, we raised money for all of the school supplies for the kids, right? So they come after school. The schools don't have supplies. Like, they don't go to school and have school supplies. There are no books. There are no pens, pencils, or nothing, right? So, she's able to do things for them. And, coloring books and notebooks and, next one. And they painted this obrigados a todos, and that's all the students, and then me, right? Which is pretty awesome, right? And next one. Here's a couple kids with books. Again, this is the school, the area. So, building bookshelves and different things. Yeah. Next one. Then they do an annual Christmas party. And I want to show you something. See this, all the kids are black and brown, right? Because, Brazil, this was where Rio, this is a slave port, right? So it's black and brown. But see how, the dolls, they get any dolls they can, including, these white dolls. Kids don't care. They don't care. You think that little girl gives a damn? There's, no feminist stuff going on here. It's just dude, a kid gets a doll. Oh, my God, right? This kid right here, right? And that's Mariluce there. Next one. And so listen. So we're going to have a conversation with Mariluce, but they're doing another Christmas party. And every year, she contacted me a few weeks ago and she said, hey, are you guys in to help buy presents? And I'm like, definitely. Of course we are. And we'll buy the presents. And she buys as many presents as people donate. So if people donate, however much they donate, and then I add some in, and that's what she gets. That's what the kids get. And there's as many children as there are gifts to be handed out. But anyway, we have time for that. Right now, I think can we bring Mariluce in, Luisa? And what I'm going to do is we're going to have a bit of a conversation, but what I'd like for you all to do is be thinking, by the way, this is Luisa.
Hi.
So
Hi.
Hang on one second. Say something about, so where are you from? Say something about yourself.
So I'm from Rio. I'm a student here. I'm a junior. My name is Luisa. I was raised in Brazil. Therefore, I'm fluent in Portuguese. And yeah, so where I live is pretty close to where Mariluce is actually. And it's really crazy to see that not diversity, but economically, because I feel like it's really different from what we see here. This is literally in the middle of the city. It's not in the outskirts or anything. But I've never actually been inside there, so I can't attest what it's like.
And how come you've never been inside there? Is it just the danger?
Yeah.
If you told your parents, hey, I'm going up to Complexo do Alemão.
My mom would probably not let me.
Yeah.
But I know that there are some other favelas that are that people are investing in to have parties and stuff, just for people to go and visit, because I know a lot of people come from other countries and they want to see what it's like. So, yeah, they're not as dangerous, but it's still dangerous in a way. But I know people who live there, and it's just really a different lifestyle from what I have.
She has always wanted me to come, and next time I go to Brazil, I want to go. And she said, listen, don't worry about it. I'll talk to all the gang leaders. They'll protect you. They'll be your personal bodyguards. I'm like, all right, I'm cool. I'm down. I can do that.
Yeah.
I've had that experience before. But now's not time for that story. So let's talk to Mariluce. Can you put our photo up there? Can we do it? Yeah, there we go. Just see us for a second so we can see. Mariluce.
Hello.
Hola. What is it? Como? Wait, say hi to her.
Oi, tudo bom?
Olá, tudo?
All right. Mariluce, como es? Como você?
Como você está?
Você está? Como você está, Mariluce?
Olá, eu estou bem. Essa é a Sofia.
Sophia.
Como você está, Sofia? Estou bem.
Hola, Sophia.
They both said that they're good.
They're doing good. So you have this thing, you have it
Yeah.
in, right? Okay, I'm going to put it up. Hey, Mariluce. So ask her, how are things in the favela with COVID?
Ele está perguntando como estão as coisas na favela com o Covid.
desde quando começou a pandemia, foi decretada a pandemia, as coisas ficaram difíceis. Muito para quem não tinha recursos antes, não tinha trabalho.
Okay,
Só um
wait,
minutinho.
wait,
Pra eu
um moment.
traduzir.
Okay.
So she said that ever since it started, it became really, really hard for everyone there, especially for those who didn't have a job or work.
Okay.
Pode continuar. E
Para
se,
quem não
e se você puder fazer frases mais curtas.
Para quem não tinha emprego formal, ficou muito difícil e até chegar ao auxílio emergencial. E depois ficou mais difícil para quem tinha emprego formal. E muita gente foi perdendo a saúde emocional também por conta disso.
So she said it was really hard for those who didn't have a formal job, and that eventually it became harder for those who also had a job, even after I think the government helped financially some of those people who didn't have a formal job, but it then became harder for those who didn't have, especially emotionally.
Everybody got a one-time payment of like $30 or something.
Yeah,
That's like
I'm
for the year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about her? How about people dying? Like how is ask her about that.
Ele está perguntando sobre o número de mortes e como foi isso para você e para sua comunidade.
Oh, we froze. Come on, Mariluce. Don't. Um momento. Come on. Mariluce, okay. Ask her again. Ask her again.
Oi. Ele perguntou. A gente está te ouvindo agora. Ele perguntou como. Oh, wait, can you repeat?
Just how's the death? How many people are dying? Like.
Não. Ele está perguntando quantas pessoas estão morrendo agora.
Aqui no Brasil, os dados eles ficam oscilantes. Tem meses que morrem mais pessoas em outros estados. Aqui no alemão mesmo, a gente teve muitas.
Okay. Go ahead while she comes back.
She said that the rate of death has been like changing in every single state, so it's really different all over. And then she was about to say, like, in the complexo do alemão right now, and then she froze.
Da alimentação correta.
Você travou quando você começou a falar do complexo do alemão.
Então, aqui no complexo alemão, a gente teve muitas mortes por Covid, mas muitas pessoas elas tiveram deficiência nutricional antes de ir para o hospital. Então, isso também dificultou a recuperação.
Okay. So she said that a lot of people died where she is, and that also a lot of people had nutrition deficiency even before they got to the hospital, so that caused even more complications for them to recover.
So, ask her about Sophia. Tell us. Let's talk to Sophia.
Ele está te perguntando sobre a Sofia.
How old is she?
Quantos anos ela tem?
Pode falar, Sofia. 12 anos.
12 años. 12,
She's 12.
12 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does she study? What's her favorite subject in school?
Ele está perguntando qual é a sua matéria favorita na escola.
Matemática.
She said math.
Math?
Yeah.
Why does she like math?
Por que você gosta de matemática?
Eu acho melhor mais na matemática do que nas outras matérias.
She said she thinks it's better than the other subjects.
Yeah. All right. And ask her if she often wears a bow in her hair.
Ele está perguntando se você sempre veste um laço na cabeça.
Sempre. Tá vendo?
Yeah. Ask her what she wants to be when she grows up.
O que você quer ser quando crescer?
Eu quero ser veterinária.
She wants to be a veterinarian.
A veterinarian?
Yeah.
And she likes what's her favorite animal?
Qual é o seu animal favorito?
Cachorro.
A dog.
A dog?
dog.
Does she have a dog?
Você tem um cachorro?
Tem.
Yep.
Yeah. What kind? What's his name?
Qual raça e qual o nome?
A raça é bulldog francês e o nome é Zico.
The name is Zico, and I don't know how to say what kind of dog it is.
What is it, Zico?
Zico.
Ziku? And how does she, and Mariluce, how does she know Sophia?
Como você conhece a Sofia?
Ah, sim. Então, Sofia é filha da Andressa. A Andressa tem 2 filhos e é casada com o Jorginho, que tem 3, né? 3 filhos. Então, são um total de 5 filhos que eles têm. Pai e mãe juntos.
All right. So Sophia is Andressa's daughter, and Andressa is married to Jorginho, who has 3 more kids. Andressa has 2 kids, so totally they have 5 kids.
And to ask, so tell about the Christmas party, ask about that. Tell us a little bit about the Christmas party that you have every year.
Okay. Ele está perguntando da festa de Natal que vocês têm todo ano.
Assim, todos os outros anos que aconteceram as festas, nós fizemos para grupos de 500, 800, até 2.000 crianças. E dividir as festas por área. Esse ano o formato vai ser diferente. Eu vou fazer a festa somente entre as crianças vacinadas e que estão numa listagem que eles já tiveram um desenvolvimento melhor para a gente ter o controle, para eles não sair de dentro das regras. E as outras crianças, elas vão receber o presente com um kitzinho para elas terem a festa com os irmãos em casa.
Tá, eu vou traduzir. So she said that usually they have like 500, 800, and in a good year, 2,000 kids in that party, and they usually separated per area. And this year, because of COVID, it's going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be a smaller party only for the vaccinated kids and who have shown like improvement in health and all that. But that for the kids that cannot attend, they're going to do like a small like packed gift that they can have like a little party with their siblings at home.
And ask her how these kids, how I want to get at how this party matters to the kids. You know what I mean? Maybe you could ask Sophia.
Okay.
I don't know how to ask that. You know what I mean? Without being gratuitous, but I want to just hear something about
Sofia, ele está perguntando qual é a importância dessa festa para as crianças.
Pode explicar a situação das outras crianças.
É porque tem algumas que não têm condições para ter e tem algumas que não têm familiar para fazer, juntando toda a família.
So she said that some of them don't have the conditions, like financially or physically, to have that party, and some of them don't even have enough family to have a Christmas party.
So they don't have it at all, right? This becomes the Christmas party for the kids. How do you say Santa Claus in Portuguese?
Papai Noel.
Papa Noel?
Papai Noel.
Papai Noel?
Yeah.
Ah, Papa Noel. Okay. Hey, so now I want to go back to Mariluce. How are the conditions in the favela regarding violence right now? Yeah.
Mariluce, ele está te perguntando como estão as condições na favela no que diz respeito à violência.
Em respeito à violência bélica, né, que era os tiroteios, não está tendo mais. Está sob controle já tem mais de um ano. Em março, assim que começou a pandemia, que teve um tiroteio muito grande aqui, de lá para cá diminuiu e depois parou. E não vai voltar, porque o ano que vem o teleférico retorna. Então, o Estado, quando quer, ele para de ter esses conflitos com os traficantes aqui dentro da favela.
So she said that it's been a lot better over the past year and a half, that there was a really, really big, how would I say, shooting, like gun violence episode in March, the beginning of the pandemic.
Yep.
But ever since that, it's been a lot better. And because the cars that you showed in the picture are going to start running again at the end of this year, violence is also not going to come back up because, according to what you said, when the state wants, they actually act for that to not to happen. So at least for now, it's not supposed to come back anytime soon.
Okay, so here's a question I have for her. Mariluce, yeah? So say, you say this as I say it. So Mariluce, you are one of my heroes
Você é dos meus heróis
because of just how much you have gone through in your life, how much you have experienced.
por conta de tudo que você passou e experimentou na sua vida.
And you continue to help children, so many children.
E você continua a ajudar tantas crianças.
Yeah? What motivates you to keep going?
O que te motiva a continuar?
Quando a gente não tem nada, mas a gente tem pessoas que podem ajudar a gente consegue ajuda, a gente divide, a gente compartilha com quem também não tem nada. Assim que eu aprendeu na favela. E eu não tinha como estudar. Então, quando eu pude passar a estudar, eu quis que as crianças também pudessem estudar. O que mais me motiva é ver eles estudando, que é isso que é importante para mim. Todo o restante é substituível, mas o conhecimento não, e a gente não pode perder tempo, porque tempo não dá para armazenar.
Só um minuto para eu conseguir traduzir. So she said that when you don't have anything and you get something, like your first response is to share that. And so she said that she wasn't able to study at all. And when she got her help, she realized that she needed to help kids to study because that knowledge and having that opportunity is really, really important. And so that she doesn't care about anything else but to help those kids to get something in life. And
To have an opportunity.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. To have her continue, yeah.
Pode continuar.
E eu sei que é a coisa mais importante que tem para quando a gente está no mundo, a gente tem que fazer valer a pena existir. E o que a gente carrega com a gente é o conhecimento. E a gente tem que deixar alguma coisa para as outras pessoas, para as outras crianças que vão ser os adultos do futuro. Então, não dá para eu viver e saber que minha avó tentou me dar de tudo. Foi difícil, mas ela conseguiu me dar, pelo menos, a esperança de viver. E eu tendo capacidade hoje de poder estudar e ter contato com outras pessoas, eu posso compartilhar isso com as crianças, para eles poderem ter mais acessos do que eu tive.
Tá.
Isso então não vai fazer.
So, so she said that when you're in the world, you have to make everything like worth it. Like everything is worth it. And so like what you can give to other people is what you have, is your knowledge, is what you know. And so she couldn't like bear living in this world knowing that she studies because her grandma did everything she could, and to see other people not have that same opportunity.
Oh, man. It's so, it's so intense, right? Tell her un momento. Un momento. Is that right?
Yeah.
Un momento? Yeah?
Yeah.
Dude. It's like, look, what's wild is like, here we're talking, we have this opportunity to talk to this young woman in Rio. You know what I mean? It's like, it's going on, it's 20 to 8 her time. And like, and that's her story. You know what I mean? Grows up with nothing. And it's like, here she is just taking it and turning it. And we all do it. We all do it our own way. It's all part of who we are. But this is her story. It's like, how awesome is that? You know what I mean? It's so awesome. Like, it's just like this hero for me. Does anybody have a question for her that you want to ask? Would anybody want to ask a question? Because, anybody have anything you got? Yeah. Do you have a question? Anyway, tell her if she wants to say anything else.
Ele está perguntando se você tem mais alguma coisa que você queira compartilhar.
É assim, vocês que hoje estão estudando e estão buscando uma formação universitária, para a gente que mora em favela e pessoas do mundo inteiro que não tem como estudar, a gente depende muito da formação da opinião de vocês. Vocês são formadores de opinião. Então, a única ferramenta que a gente tem para combater a desigualdade quando o governo não escuta a gente é através das pesquisas do que vocês publicam. Vocês são as nossas vozes, vocês é que mostram as nossas realidades quando vocês vão fazer a pesquisa de campo. Então, quando forem fazer, faz pensando que vocês não estão fazendo só o trabalho de vocês, vocês estão fazendo o que a gente ainda não pode fazer.
Okay. Só um minutinho. So she said that we as university students, we have a big role to play in all of this because our opinion matters. They have a really hard time to even get into university there, and for our opinion is what the government will hear to change their situation in the future.
The educated people.
Yeah. So when we go out and we do research and we talk to them, and the data goes to the government, it's our opinion that they're listening to and not their opinion. And so she just said that we should take into consideration that when we go out and do our job, because we're not just doing our job, we're trying to help them as well.
We're helping everyone who's under. We're at some level responsible for everyone who's under us.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, can you, Mariluce, do you have any final words for or Sophia and Mariluce, any final words? What are your final words for my class?
Ele está perguntando quais são os seus últimas palavras para a aula, para essa turma, para tanto você quanto a Sofia.
Wait, hang on, wait. To Sophia, this is a question for Sophia.
Yeah.
What is your most vivid memory?
To
Sophia.
Ele está perguntando para a Sofia qual é a sua memória mais viva também.
Memória mais viva.
Mais presente ou mais...
Você mais lembra que te marcou.
Mais
que
brilhante.
Acontecimento que você, uma experiência que você teve que te marcou. Qual foi a coisa que você fez que marca você? Eu não esquece nunca na sua vida.
Isso.
That's such a cool question. That comes from a guy on the live stream who calls himself Opinionated Matt.
Pode repetir.
Pode falar.
Se juntar com a minha família, eu amo elas. E é isso que marca na minha cabeça.
As confraternizações, os encontros com a família.
She said all the time that she spends with her family is what's most memorable for her.
Yeah?
That she really loves them. So the time that she spends with her family.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, ask the same question to Mariluce. What's her most vivid memory?
Mariluce, ele está perguntando a mesma coisa para você.
Eu tenho tantas experiências que me marcam, mas a mais marcante de todas... A mais marcante foi ver as crianças vindo aqui me ver se eu estava bem, mesmo quando elas não podiam sair de casa. Que elas sabem que, assim, eu sou do grupo de risco, mas na hora que precisou ajudar, eu não podia pensar que eu sou do grupo de risco, tinha mais gente em risco. Nosso risco de morrer de fome era maior do que morrer de Covid. Então, o que mais me marcou foi a preocupação das crianças comigo.
She said that during the pandemic, all the kids would just come over to check on her and make sure that she was doing well, even though they weren't supposed to be out. And that was like the most memorable thing for her, to just see them go and check on her because she's kind of in the risk category.
Yeah.
And She said that there were so many more people dying of hunger than of COVID that she didn't feel like they should be checking on her for that, and yet they were.
Man. Okay, Mariluce. Ciao.
Tchau.
Ciao.
Bye, bye.
Sophia. Ciao. Bye bye. Obrigado.
Nós que
Obrigado.
agradecemos.
Okay.
Obrigada.
Hey.
Obrigada.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's awesome, man. Thanks for doing that, by the way. Yeah. Hey, listen, thank you, Luisa.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. 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 Awesome. That's cool. Hey, you all. So listen. So I mean, obviously you don't have to donate, but it's a Christmas party. You know what I mean? So if you want to donate, there it is, right there. That's how you get it. I'll add it all up, and we'll do a Christmas party for the kids. There's up to 800 of them, so there's plenty of kids, and it's awesome. What's that? Her TED Talk? You could look. You could look her up, actually. I can send it out. Yeah. Hey, we have a couple. Does anybody have a question? Anyone have a question for me? You want to ask? Whatever. Yeah. Lily, don't put it up yet. Wait 1 second. All right. You can look up her talk, by the way. If you look up TEDx Lachador, Luisa, is that how you say it? Lachador? Anyway, look up TEDx Lachador and look up her name. It's on YouTube. It's not in English, but you can read the subtitles. Well, you have a question, right? Did you have a question? Oh, no. Oh, all right. Dude, do you have a question? All right, listen, y'all. Be safe the next couple of days. Anyway, let's do the. Hey, thanks. By the way, thanks for, just for me. Wait, before you put that up, I just want to say something. I meet people around the world, right? And they have a certain connection to the class, and so just thanks for even just being here and listening to her talk. It's so meaningful for her to have a chance to do that, and it's meaningful for me because God, just these beautiful souls, you know what I mean? It's just, oh God.